short film is such an amazing short film. I've got to say that when I was watching it, I had tears in my eyes. So congratulations on such an amazing film.
Thank you. I don't usually like to make people cry, but that's nice to hear.
It's just such a personal story. Like I grew up with an autistic cousin, so I felt so much when I sat down to and watched this film. For yourself personally, tell us a little bit about where this journey with this film begun for you.
Yeah, sure. So it was kind of inspired by a moment that I had with my son who was diagnosed with autism when he was 6. And we'd gone to this English music festival together down south. And it was kind of late at night, and he was walking ahead of me, and something had finished up ahead, and they were in one of like the sort of main festival tents, and so we're walking along this path, and all these people were streaming towards us. And one of the things that my son really likes to do is he just likes to randomly high-five people.
Yep.
And so as we were walking, he just started high-fiving people, and these people were like, it's late at night, and they were a bit downtrodden, and they were a bit sort of sad-looking, and then he high-fived them, and because I was behind him, I could see the aftermath of the high-five, and these people just like lit up, and they were like laughing and joking, and I could see this amazing positive influence that he was having on people. And, because it was happening at around the time of his diagnosis for us as a family, everything was kind of tumultuous, it was quite difficult, challenging, and I just saw everything in a new light. And so after that, I thought, you know what, I really need to share this story and portray autism in a way that isn't commonly portrayed in the media.
How difficult is that to overcome the stigma that is around autism? I know for myself, when we were young and we went anywhere with my cousin, if he became overwhelmed by lights or sound somewhere, people around us would start reacting by saying, oh, you need to discipline him, he's just a naughty kid, and stuff like that. How difficult is it to overcome that stigma and make people really understand what it is like for someone with autism, but also for people that have got a family member with autism?
Yeah, I think it's really tricky, and I think one of the trickiest things is that, obviously autism is such a spectrum, and so everyone's got such a different personal story. And so for us, actually, as a family, because my son presents in a really different way. Behaviorally, he's super compliant, actually, to the point of vulnerability. So for us, he, if we go out, he's not, we don't see like sort of tantrums, but what we see is a child who will walk off with anyone.
Yep.
So that is really challenging for us in a way because, first of all, especially when he was younger, people didn't understand that that's what autism could be. And then also just kind of reiterating for us that is his vulnerability, which is different to, I think, what a lot of people think it is for the vast majority.
Yeah, that must be terrifying for you as well as a parent, knowing that there's people out there that prey on children. That must be a really terrifying thing for you when you're out in public, knowing that is something that could happen.
Absolutely, like it's really challenging, and for me as a mother, I love the fact that he's so socially motivated and he's so warm and open, and I love the fact that he's so keen to interact with people. But then, and I want to, in a way, I don't want to, limit him by stopping him from doing that. But at the same time, as his mother, I need to be aware of those filters that he doesn't have. Yeah. And so I find that still, he's just turned 11, and I find that still a constant struggle. But we're working on it, so hopefully we'll get there.
Definitely. So bringing it back to the film, once you decided what you wanted to portray on screen, how did you then go about bringing the film to life, like with the screenplay and things like that? Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, it wasn't a really straightforward process for me at the beginning because I hadn't done character animation before. My background is in more design and that kind of thing, and a little bit of animation, but not really character animation. So I wasn't really sure how I was going to tell the story, and certainly in a way that was affordable. So I just started drawing the story really. And when I realized, okay, well, I can kind of draw, then I started putting the story together in more of a script form. And then it was just a matter of finding animators to come on board that could really bring the character to life. And I was really lucky to work with a really great team that were able to help me do that.
Yep. Now, we have some amazing screenwriters that listen to this show and some young screenwriters, and I know a lot of them are probably asking the question now, how do you find animators to work on your project once you've got an idea for what you want to do? So how did you go about that next step, finding the animators, but finding the right animators for your project as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's super tricky because, as everyone knows, animation takes a long, long time. So getting people to come on board for little or no pay is really challenging. And I think that, for people who are starting out, there really has to be something involved for both of those parties, to benefit from. I was really lucky because, like I said, this is my background. Well, it's not even my background, this is what I actively do. So I was able to tap into, I run a design studio, so I was able to tap into people there and was able to pay them through the company. And so really it was just a matter of finding the right skill set. And the way that I did that really was, I guess, doing some little experiments myself and working out what I wanted, because I think because animation does take so long, you don't want to waste people's time. You really kind of got to be quite specific about what you're trying to achieve. So once I'd worked that out, then it was just a matter of finding the animators and then running a little test with them and seeing if that was, the path that we wanted to go down.
And how does that journey then, when you're making the film, change from the other films that you've worked on? Because you've worked on some huge films that I know a lot of our listeners would have watched over the years. How does the journey change with an animation? Because like you said, it takes a lot longer, but you get to kind of watch things come to life as the animators work on it. So how does that journey change for the filmmakers involved?
Yeah, I mean, I guess for me, the big difference was the character work, and really seeing how characters can come to life with really not a lot. If you within the film, there's not a huge degree of technical animation that's involved, but you can still get such an emotive response from people from so little, which I find really fascinating. But yeah, and I guess the other big difference was just having the creative authorship over the whole process. I mean, usually I'm working with a director and a producer and an editor, would be the core people that I work with. And on this, I was really lucky to be able to wear the hats of director, writer and producer myself. So that was pretty fun.
And because it was such a personal story as well, based on what had happened with your son, did you find that changed your perspective on the film at all?
Yeah, Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Because it was such a personal story, like a story that was close to your heart, and based on what happened with your son, did you find that your perspective?
Yeah, the change of perception of the film. Yeah. I was thinking to the change of perception of my son or the film, and actually both. So
yeah.
I was thinking which one better. Yeah, I mean, it did. It was really challenging doing the film about my son, but also being conscious of that I wanted this to have a wide range of appeal, and I wanted it to appeal to and to speak the story of a spectrum, right? And
yep.
And that was really challenging. I think the biggest thing that I did change was I changed the gender of the character, so it became from my son to a little girl, which was really important for me to do, just because I feel like we have, in the media that it's more widely portrayed to be male,
yep.
Autistic people, as opposed to female, and I felt like that was really important to change. But yeah, so that was probably the biggest change that happened.
You said as well that the film kind of changed your perspective of your son. Tell us a little bit about that. How did that change for you as well?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I've always been a big advocate for him, obviously, as a lot of parents of autistic children are. But what I wasn't expecting was for him to find his own self-advocacy in the process. And and also for it to be a tool for him to learn more about his autism and accept it too. You know, I think that was a really interesting process, because when I first started, he actually didn't know about his diagnosis, and so I was able to use the film as helping him explain what was happening and why things were the way they were, and everything just kind of clicked into place for him. And I've had a few parents actually say that they've used the tool to help explain either their own children or a family member what it's like.
That's amazing. And what did you actually want people to take away from the film when they watched it? Did you have a goal in mind when you first started working on the film?
Yeah, I really did. I felt like so often when I watched films or TV about autistic people, we were supposed to feel sorry for the character. It was quite sad. There was a lot of empathy, and I just felt like I wanted to make a story that was really different to that, and that was really positive and optimistic, and yeah, so that was the main thing. I just wanted people to be really enamored by the world, and to feel a really positive, optimistic outlook.
Now, the film has been so well received at festivals, and it also caught the attention of the New York Times, which is not always something that happens with short films. What did that mean to you that so many people sat up and took notice of your film?
Yeah, I mean, it was brilliant. It still is. I mean, I've just, you know, when you're working on something like this and it takes, you know, a year to 2 years, and you're just beavering away in your dark space, you know, hoping one day that someone sees it. It's brilliant, and for me as well, not just the film festivals that have received it, but also within the autism community, have been so well received there has been really important to me as well.
Yeah. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of people listening at the moment who want to check out the film. Where can they check out the film, and where do you hope the film ends up in the future?
Oh, that's a good question. So they can watch the film at www.aaoa.co.uk. And where do I hope it ends up in the future? I mean, I feel like where it is at the moment is great. I feel like it's, yeah. Actually, that's not true. Sorry. Actually, let me clarify that. I would love to see it widely available in schools. And I've got it has gone into schools a little bit, but I would love for it to be used as a tool for, you know, if you've got an autistic person in your class and you're a teacher and you want to help, you know, explain things differently and positively, then I would love for it to be available there.
I was going to say that it's the perfect educational tool, not only for parents with autistic children, but also for people that work with autistic children, or classes where maybe children are coming into a class for the first time and they've never had a classmate with autism before. It's the absolutely perfect educational tool for that.
Absolutely, and I think that it's a great way to show that, you know, even though someone is different, it doesn't have to be a negative thing, and it doesn't have to be dwelled upon, and, you know, and it can, those differences don't have to be like that. They can be different.
Definitely. And Alison, I guess the one question I want to ask is, what was your son's reaction to the film?
Yeah, I mean, it was really funny. He's watched it so many times, and the funny thing is there's a moment in the film where the character jumps off a skateboard, and so what you do when you're doing animation is you often make references. So you'll take a video of someone jumping off the skateboard, so then the animator has a reference of what to animate. And so I had done that for him because he rides a skateboard, and I filmed him jumping off. And so whenever it got to that part in the film, he'd say, "Oh, look, this is my moment. This is me." And so I'm like, "The whole film's you, buddy." But, you know, take your skateboard moment. So yeah, it's really fun. But he loves it. He could just keep watching it forever.
Awesome. Well, Alison, I want to thank you so much for coming on our show today. It's been an honor having you on the show, and we can't wait to see your next project. But to finish off, is there anything you would like to say to people out there who are thinking about sitting down and watching the film, especially if they're going to be watching the film from an educational point of view?
What would I like to say to them? I'd like to say that, you know, I hope you enjoy it and share it as widely as you can.
Definitely.